I did want to talk about something big that's happening in the business world, in the entertainment industry. I want to talk about what's going on in Hollywood, or Hollyweird as you might know it, because some strange things are happening in the business side of the entertainment industry. These two movies, Obsession and Backrooms, are two horror movies that are scaring a certain demographic more than all others. Now, Obsession is a movie about a guy who makes a wish to make this girl fall in love with him, and she gets way, way, way too in love. Very creepy, very spooky performance. I really enjoyed this movie. The other is Backrooms, which is basically Chiwetel Ejiofor walking through a 90s Walmart backroom. I haven't seen this one yet, but both these are spooky, scary horror movies. And while when it comes to horror movies, you know, whether or not you were scared is kind of a personal thing. Some of them people find this scary, some people didn't. There is one group that found both of these movies very, very scary, and that is Hollywood executives. Because these two movies in the past 2 weekends have upended 3 major rules of how media and movies are done in the business that is causing all these so-called experts to scratch their heads and maybe be a lot less valuable. Look, first of all, number one, there's an established rule. People want slop. Everyone knows this. People want established, safe franchises. That's what they want. They want Mandalorian and Grogu. They want a sequel to a sequel to a sequel. They want an expanded universe. They want something they've seen before. That's why you know you can fund it and make your money and a safe return. The only problem is, it seems like audiences are really starting to lose interest in that. Not all at once, not the biggest and safest IPs, but generally there is a slow drag on interest for all of these things that have been milked over and over again. Star Wars, one of the biggest franchises in media history, after this release is on life support. It dropped 69%, nice by the way, in 1 week at the box office, which means if the first weekend and the second weekend are so drastically different, it basically means you have a very small, medium-sized, aging group of core fans. This property is running on fumes of the few Disney adults who still love Mandalorian and Grogu type content. But outside of that, it's not attracting new people in. So it's slowly but surely grinding down. This was the worst opening for a Star Wars movie in the modern era, worse than Solo. And if you adjust for inflation, it is the worst opening of all time. Maybe New Hope, when it was brand new. Maybe it's second worst. But it's essentially the worst opening for a Star Wars movie of all time, which means something has gone wrong. People are worried, especially because this cost $165 million to make. Keep that number in mind. That's not even marketing cost. That's just to shoot it. On the flip side, Backrooms and Obsession are having incredible box office runs, and people are responding. This is a random review I picked, but it gets the tone across. People are saying Obsession was a great movie beginning to end. Haven't seen the movie in a while. It felt refreshing. And you can see this echoed through a lot of the YouTube reactions, short reactions, and reviews. People just feel refreshed. It's a new idea with unproven actors and actresses that kind of just came out of left field and was surprising and delighting. It was interesting. So number two, that's the second rule that's being disproven here. Gen Z doesn't see movies. Hollywood has known this. This is a fact. Everyone knows that Gen Z's on their phones, they're on their iPad, and they don't go to theaters. Theaters have been declining ever since COVID. There was a moderate bounce back, and then it's been back to decline. And everyone said basically the era of the theater is over. And yet, maybe it's that Gen Z does not want to watch movies made for Disney adults. Maybe they have different tastes. Maybe they want content made for them by people who understand things they're interested in. It shows, this is from a CEO of Cinepolis USA, a theater chain. When we have the right content, people from all ages are willing to go to the theater. And that's true because as Backrooms and Obsession draw Gen Z to the theaters, which by the way, they did in record numbers, both AMC and Cinemark, two massive chains, AMC had the strongest May in 7 years. You know what happened in May 2019? Avengers Endgame. It's the strongest movie theater May since Avengers Endgame. And Cinemark had its highest May ever in the history of the chain. So these are like huge returns to form for theaters based on largely two movies that have, zero established franchise and a Gen Z focused audience. It's crazy. And then, so you look at the people making them. The people making them are Gen Z. This is Kane Parsons directed Backrooms. He's 20 years old, bro. He's directing a record-breaking $80 million opener, and he's 20 years old. He got his start making Backrooms found footage YouTube videos when he was 14. He's Kane Pixels on YouTube. And now he's directing feature films that are beating established Disney franchises. And on the other side, we have Curry Barker, who's only 26. Curry Barker directed Obsession. He's 26, and I looked at his YouTube past. He's got videos where he sticks his dick in a Doritos Minis.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Curry's Crazy Pranks. Today we got a crazy one for you. We got these Dorito Minis, but here's the catch. There's nothing in there. Woo! Woo!
What's up, guys? We're all set up here. Charlotte usually gets home around.
And now he is an auteur director breaking records at the box office. Now look, if you're an unk like me, maybe you're like, damn, these Gen Z are coming fast and furious, bro. These guys are, well, there shouldn't be any Gen Z taking the lead. I'm already mad that James Bond is younger than me. The new James Bond is born in 2000, bro. He wasn't even remembering 9/11. It's problematic for an unk like me, but if you're Gen Z, this is pretty cool. These two guys are like showing that you don't have to wait for the gatekeepers. You could just make good content people are interested in, and it can go, in today's modern day internet word of mouth culture, it can go viral. You can make a ton of money at the theater. You don't need an established franchise. And I want to show you specifically with Obsession how insane their box office run has been so far. When Obsession comes out, I don't show their opening weekend, but this is the last day they were #1. This is May 20th, 2026. Okay, Obsession is top of the charts, beating Devil Wears Prada 2, Mortal Kombat 2, Project Hail Mary, Michael, Mario Galaxy movie, okay? Then the next day on Thursday, Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, and it takes #1. It should be over now. Then it's Mandalorian and Grogu on Friday, on Sunday to Monday, and then on Wednesday, Obsession takes #1 back. It's been 2 weekends since it came out, and it retook #1. That literally never happens, especially from an indie film versus an established. That's unreal. That means the word of mouth is so strong that you are overcoming the natural decline that happens to all movies and actually gaining spots. It's crazy. It is the only wide release horror film on record to ever grow its second weekend at this scale. Up 30% over opening. That is crazy. They are now 3 weekends in and they have grown every weekend. That is so extremely rare. The last movie of any real size to do that was Jaws in 1975. I mean, that's crazy. That literally means people just willed it to do better. It wasn't marketing money. It was like people's word of mouth. That's really cool. Speaking of Jaws, I'll talk about that in a second, but I want to go through these backgrounds a little bit. These people are not coming, much like Steven Spielberg when he got Jaws. They're not coming from an established background. Backrooms had a budget of only 10 million. Obsession had a budget of only 750K. And they're grossing record-breaking numbers. Obsession's on track to hit 300+ million in box office, which is one of the biggest movies of the year and would make this one of the most profitable movies of all time in the history of film. And so, you know, the big linchpin that's changing the industry here is YouTube. YouTube has completely removed the gatekeeping aspect of Hollywood. It's removed the leverage they had over their ability to find an audience. And so YouTubers are starting to find an audience and then use that to get projects they wouldn't be able to get before. It kind of started, the first pioneer of this was this Australian YouTube duo Raka Raka. You go back 5 years ago, they're making YouTube skits about Pokemon Rampage and Ronald McDonald. You go back 4 years, they're doing sneaking into a Mr. Beast video. You go back 3 years, they're making a horror film called Talk to Me. And then you go back 2 years, that film has become their highest grossing horror release of A24. And it is intensely beloved on Metacritic. Talk to Me is like what kicked this off and one of the first big YouTuber experiments. But you flash forward to this year, earlier this year, and you have Markiplier, who did it himself with a self-financed, self-funded movie where he self-published it and got, I think as an individual, he got 50% of the gross, which the studios would never allow. But he didn't have to care. He spoke to the theaters himself. I mean, we interviewed him on Lemonade Stand, and he said,
it wasn't my goal to set out to do it, but the number of people that are at least talking about it raises this conversation and kind of legitimizes this. It was something that they were, I think, willfully ignoring. At least a lot of Hollywood was willfully ignoring the potential of YouTubers here. And actually, that reminds me, because I got catch up with Freddie W. I haven't been ignoring you, Freddie. I swear. I will. I've been sleeping a lot and vacations, taking my wife out to dinner. I'll get back to you really soon.
He's our top commenter in every episode. Anyway, he's saying Hollywood was willfully ignoring the potential of YouTube to build an audience for film outside of their system. And slowly but surely, it eroded their power over that system. And he said this was a wake-up call to them.
Is a bit of a shift here, because I've had a couple meetings with some students.
And now Hollywood is reaching out to him desperately, trying to figure out what's the sauce that allowed this to happen. How can we catch up?
Some executives, some key people in the world, and they're all asking me the same thing, which is, how'd you do it? How did you do it? How'd you do this? And so clearly they want to know, because
They want to steal it. They want to.
I mean, yeah, that's basically it. They see
try to
money.
bottle your blood.
Exactly. They got money being made, and they can see the threat that's there. They see that, oh, if people can make this independently, that means less of the pie is available. So we got to be smart. And I think that's good. Like, they need some competition. They need a kick in the ass, because I don't want to destroy the studios. I'm not setting out to do that. I think that studios have made some really incredible films that are very...
Yeah, okay, so he's not setting up the story, but he wants to kick him in the ass. You know, so you had Raka Raka, you had him. It's a trickle. But as of now, as of this May, it's starting to become a flood. Not only are Obsession and Backrooms kicking the ass of an established franchise that, again, the budget was like 100 times bigger than both of their budgets combined, but there's a lot more YouTube films coming down the pike that maybe start to upset the apple cart here. And when you ask the director of Obsession, which they did on the Incredible Dead Meat podcast, shout out to Dead Meat, love these guys, Curry Barker's got something to say.
What's really interesting is that we just live in a time where YouTube is a thing. You know, I don't think my path is that different than Steven Spielberg, or like, not comparing myself to these people, but just saying their path to how they got to where they are. You know, you can watch an early Christopher Nolan short. You can watch an early David Fincher short film. These people kept making short films and hoping and praying that somebody important would like it and give them a shot. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me.
That's kind of what happened, but this time he can do it directly to the audience. That is the key unlock. They're able to skip knowing some person in Hollywood or the politics of that, and just, if something finds an audience through the YouTube algorithm, you have a lot more leverage. I like this tweet because it kind of covered what I think is probably going to happen. Hollywood is going to take some good lessons from this and some bad lessons from this. The correct one is that clearly there's a new form of media that is gaining attention. They need to pay attention to it. The wrong form of media is that they're going to just try to throw a check at any possible YouTuber they can because they don't understand what's good and what's bad. But the next gen of IP will start on YouTube. There's going to be good and bad results from this. But instead of spending hundreds of millions on mediocre concepts that don't bring people to theaters, they can tap into creators who already have millions of subs with proven concepts. Yeah, it's like a content renaissance. You can just test things out. Short form versions of things can be tried on YouTube to see if people have any attachment or like to it, and then use that as a testing ground to build full-length films that have an audience already. The hosts, they described it as being similar to a Renaissance period in early Hollywood called New Hollywood.
I think that, and I was thinking about this the other day, there is kind of a weird parallel right now to New Hollywood, and where there were all these directors kind of making stuff through this new pathway as a reaction to this weird kind of dinosaur studio system that wasn't working anymore and was kind of collapsing in on itself. And I do see parallels to that.
Yeah, 100%. So New Hollywood was in the 70s, and it was where part of it had to do with antitrust, actually, where they started breaking up the studio system, and it gave this room for real directors with things to say to break through. They didn't have to go through the established studio system. And we're seeing that again now. Now that the Hollywood system has gotten so old and so dragging along on its last legs, ever since Endgame, basically, it's been on a real downhill. They haven't had anything new of that level, nothing that gets people excited. And so finally, new ways are finding around that to break through. It was kind of like this, okay? So the old model is that a filmmaker had to go through a studio gatekeeper because they had access to the marketing spend to get the audience. Let's see if you can see it. That's it. That's the only way. But now the filmmaker can bring their own audience. They can go around the studio, or at least go to the studio with a lot of leverage and go straight to the cinema. And this changes things. It takes all the power back. When a filmmaker shows up with 38 million subscribers, the studio's leverage collapses. But it doesn't have to be 38 million. It could be 4. It could be a million view video. Anything that gets it out there in a way that they can't control gives you a lot more leverage that filmmakers haven't had in the past. They become checkbooks instead of gatekeepers. So that's sort of the 3 things that have been like undone. The 3 established ideas have been undone. But there's one that has a big question mark for me, because so far, all of the films to do this, to bring this new model, have been horror. And so the question becomes, can a YouTube creator or a Gen Z creator going a different way find a way to do this without doing a horror movie? And the reason for this is obvious, same as horror games. They're cheaper to make and they're easier to market. Again, these had really low budgets, and yet you can sell them on the creepiness and the idea, like the scare of it sells itself in a way. Again, I'm sure Hollywood will take the wrong lesson and go all horror and make a million horror films. The real lesson is that they're creative, original, breakthrough ideas. And I think it can be done. A few have already started to happen. Apparently there's a YouTube cartoon called Amazing Digital Circus or something like that. They already have done a film coming out soon. It has 7.5 million in pre-sale tickets already and is expanding to more theaters than... I don't know Amazing Digital Circus. I don't know it, but apparently it's quite popular and Hollywood's already picked them on that. I think a lot of this stuff is starting to get picked up and it'll be outside of horror. And I think that is where we're headed, is more and more things are gonna find their audience outside of this and then just show up with a demand. One thing cool, I don't know if I have the clip here, but when they interviewed both of these guys, both of these directors, these young guys who shouldn't be able to like get complete creative control, they did. The studio never came in and stopped them. The studio basically was afraid of telling them what to do. And they had creative control to make the film how they wanted. It was quite a dub. That's not normal. If they went to an established franchise, if they directed Jurassic Park sequel or Star Wars sequel, they would be following a script. They'd have to do exactly what the studio wanted. And now they don't. That's cool to me. And so I'm gonna close it by saying what Curry Barker said in an interview.
What advice would you give to people who are maybe experimenting in that space or maybe even dabbling in filmmaking?
It's very simple, but I think because I know all these people, even my friends that always are telling me that they want to do a short film or they want to do this or they want to do that, and the thing that always stops them is that they're scared that it won't be good enough or that their idea isn't good enough. Don't put too much pressure on your first, second, third, fourth, fifth film. Don't do that. Like, go make a shitty film. Allow yourself to make 5 bad films. If you put too much pressure on one idea, next thing you know, 2 years have gone by, you haven't made a single movie. So just go make something.
I think that's great advice. And given that Hollywood is clearly going to be throwing paychecks at YouTubers as they desperately look for another hit, all I'm saying is I'm open. All I'm saying is I've got an established audience, we've got the views, and I'm open to it. Hollywood, call me. Thanks for watching Big A.